The quality of our life is determined by the quality of the questions we ask. This is a quote that I heard from Dr. John Demartini many years ago. And I thought it was a cool quote at the time, but I've only recently realized the significance of how important this is. The more research I do into the questions we ask ourselves, the more drastically I can see they can alter the quality of our life. As human beings, we are filtering our experience constantly. There's far too much information happening in the world coming in through our senses that we can properly process in our brain. Of all the information that comes in through our senses, we filter out maybe 99% of it, maybe even more. So it's 1% or less that we're actually becoming aware of. So how does our brain know what to filter out and what to filter in? Well, there's a few things. Number one is survival of the organism. Our whole species, our DNA, wants us to survive, and information will come in to help us with that. Also, we filter based on our belief systems, which are created in childhood. Another one, which we can start to change in the moment, is the questions that we ask ourselves. So what's an example of these filters changing in a very, very quick fashion? I'll give you an example. So just recently, I got a new car. I got a Hyundai. I'm like, hey, this car's cool. I like this Hyundai. I haven't really seen many of them out on the road. Seems pretty unique. As soon as I got the car and I start driving, now I see about 8 a day of this exact same bloody car on the road, right? Now, did everybody buy a Hyundai at the exact same time that I did? No, they were always there. I was just filtering them out. Now I'm filtering them in, okay? This is an example of how quickly our filters can change. So when it comes to questions we ask of ourselves, we're either asking empowering or disempowering questions. Now, the unfortunate thing is we mostly ask disempowering questions, and this comes back to the whole need for survival that we have as a human being. Looking out for what's wrong in the world is very good for our survival. It's really, really bad for our happiness, our peace, our joy, right? So we have to take the reins. What happens when we get up in the morning, we tend to ask ourselves questions that we're not normally very conscious of, but we tend to say things like, what's going to go wrong today, right? And we might picture things going wrong at work or wherever we're going. And then we go throughout our day, and to confirm and find an answer to this question, we will start to have things go wrong, right? And then when things do go wrong, we're like, I knew something was going to go wrong. Here we go again, right? Then we wake up the next morning and ask similar questions. And we just keep going through this cycle of the same stuff happening over and over and over again. What if when we got up in the morning, instead of asking what's going to go wrong, what if we said what's going to go right today? What if we said, what beautiful experience am I going to have today? What amazing human being am I going to meet or connect with today? Now, what happens when we ask these different questions, we generally don't get an answer straight away. If I wake up and say, what's going to go right today, nothing may come to my mind. And what happens then, we think that that's done. The question is done, we didn't get an answer, that's the end of it. That's not how questions work. When we ask a question, our brain, which is just such an amazing organ, wants to go to work and start to find an answer to that question. And if it can't find one straight away, it will search for one. Now, using this kind of a technique, if you're on the more spiritual side, people say you ask the question to the universe, to infinite intelligence, to the quantum field, and be prepared to receive the answer in whatever way it gets delivered. For the more analytic and scientific people, you can just say, I'm using my cognitive biases in my favor instead of against my favor. So when we ask a question, all of a sudden that question ducks into our subconscious, and we'll start looking for answers to that. So when we go about our work then, or wherever we're going, we'll start to notice something that goes right. And we think that's quite a random event. Oh, something went right. That's pretty random and different. Because we asked the question hours before, we tend to forget and relay that, hey, I just got an answer to this question I asked in the morning, and we just think whatever happened was random. But it is directly located or attributed to that answer. Then we can start to wake up and ask this question again, and now we can start to move in a more empowering way as opposed to a disempowering way. And we can start to notice more things that go right in our day than go wrong. Now, the things that were going right were always happening. There's stuff going right all the time. We just weren't aware of it and weren't conscious of it and weren't focusing on it because we're asking ourselves what was wrong instead of what was right. Now, a good way to incorporate questions into your life to improve the quality of it is to have a list of a few basic questions that you ask yourself both at night time before bed and in the morning just after you get up. These are ideal times. Things you can ask yourself at night is, if you have some sort of challenge or problem, just ask, what's the solution to this problem? I wonder what the solution to this problem is. I can't tell you how many times I've asked that question. Even if it was a problem I'd kept thinking about all day and I couldn't work out an answer, I seemed to be getting further away than the answer than close to it. And simply by asking that question, the amount of times I've had a dream which has shown me the solution to the problem, or woken up in the morning and just had a knowing of what I was meant to do next, happens all the time. Because I'm just letting my mind, my subconscious, go to work on finding an answer. Because that's what it does. It's amazing. And then having these questions in the morning then to start focusing on what's going right in our day instead of what's wrong can drastically improve our life. It's just questions. It's such a basic thing to do, but such an amazing way to improve the quality of our life.